Hey folks, welcome to this special announcement. You've been hearing about it for weeks, and here we are. You know, Moral Baptist Church has been in existence since 1848. That's 172 years of ministry. 172 years of preaching the gospel and teaching the Word of God. 172 years of watching people get married and have babies and live their lives and then pass on into eternity. 172 years of helping start other ministries or of supporting missionaries all around the world. Moral Baptist Church has been a beacon of light. But times change, culture change, meanings change. For instance, the word Baptist, what does that even mean anymore? For some people, they hear Baptist, they think something very fundamentalist and very conservative. To other people, they think something very liberal and hypocritical. Not only that, but then there's also the geographical marker that's a part of our name. We're much bigger than a community church anymore. We draw people from Dixmont and Lincolnville and Northport and Troy and all kinds of other places. So we're much more regional in nature. So given the cultural changes and even given the change in the life of our church, we've come to the point where it's time to change the name. It was being talked about for at least a dozen years, and about a year ago we officially formed a name change team of various members of our congregation. Some were long-standing members, some were new members, some were older people, some were younger people. We had men, we had women, and they went to work taking the 60 names that were submitted from our congregation and began paring them down to land upon a new name for our church. And there's more about that you can read about on the new church website that I'll tell you about in a minute. After they did all their work in paring it down to try to find the right name for our church, they passed off their decisions to the elders. After a lot of conversation and prayer and consideration, the elders concluded it's in the best interest of our church and of the mission that God has called us to present to you a new name for our church. Rather than voting on two names and being divisive, or rather than an up and down vote on one name that could be dismissive of all the hours of work, a full year of work put in by a name change team, the elders are now ready to propose to you, or to give to you, a new name. And here it is, Veracity Chapel. Now I know what you're asking, veracity what? What is veracity? That's a great question. That's the very question we hope that a lot of people ask. It is a great name. Now, it took a while for it to grow on me and others of us as well. But when you begin to consider the meaning and the missional relevance of the name, it is an absolutely perfect name for us. Veracity means truth. In a more full way, it means conforming to truth. And as Christians, we are called to conform to truth. When you consider the Great Commission tells us to teach people to obey everything that Christ has said to us. That is truth. That is conforming to truth. That is the very thing that we are called to do. When you look at the word truth throughout the scriptures, there's so many references to truth and to veracity in that sense that it's a strong name for our church. And not only that, veracity is a name that isn't used by any other church anywhere else that we can find. Anywhere on the planet. You're saying, chapel? Why chapel? Why not church? Well, let's talk about that too. I mean, there was a lot of forethought given to that name as well. Chapel has its origins from a place in Gaul, France, where Saint Martin of Tours had taken his military cloak and took part of his clothing and gave it to a ragged beggar. That very night he had a dream that part of the clothing he'd given to the beggar was being worn by Christ, and the rest of the clothing was being worn by himself. And in that dream is this notion of compassion. This notion of the very thing that Christ has called us to. Jesus said, the thing that you do to the least of these, you've done it unto me. So the name chapel has a connotation of compassion, mercy, and love. So for us, we want to be a church of truth and of love. It's a great combination of two words that come together to represent who it is that we believe we are called to be. Now, I want to invite you, you can go to our website at veracitychapel.com and read a much more full statement there about this name change. You're going to find us on Facebook right now. You can go to Veracity Chapel and find the Veracity Chapel page on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on, what's that other thing called? There's so many different social medias. Instagram, that's it. We're all over the place there, and you can find us there. Yeah, I really did need help with that, for the record. I hope that you'll be excited. I hope you'll let this name grow on you. I hope that you'll understand how powerful it can be in terms of sharing the faith, of sharing Christ with people. Picture yourself wearing a t-shirt that just says Veracity on it, and someone's saying, what's that about? It's just open a door for you to tell them about Jesus Christ. We're praying for the days ahead. We're praying not only for our campus here, but we're praying for new satellite campuses and church plants, all coming out of Veracity Chapel, out of your church. I hope you'll be excited too in the days ahead. Folks, we are Veracity Chapel.